Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sempre Milan bonus podcast on Substack. Big news has arrived regarding the fate of San Siro and Milan and Inter's stadium project, so we are going to break it down bit by bit to get to the truth of what's actually happening. Happy Friday, brother.
Yes, Friday pizza day, as the children call it. I'm the children. I have pizza on Fridays. I
Every
don't know where I'm
Friday?
going with this. It sure feels like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah, I
make
don't know
it though. I'm
what.
not ordering from Domino's. I make good pizza.
Oh, well, God, need to remortgage to order from Domino's.
Yeah,
It's really expensive over here. I don't know if it's seen the same for you, but it's like a
yeah, it's
massively
expensive now.
overpriced thing, basically. Yeah, I don't know what I'm having tonight. I'm doing something that I do generally 2 or 3 times a year tonight, and that is wash myself. No, I'm joking. I'm going to I'm going to the cinema.
Oh wow. Okay, what are you gonna
Yeah,
see?
the new DiCaprio one
Yeah. Let me know how that is. Actually, I saw a preview yesterday. Sounded like
in
it
the
was
running
gonna be good.
time.
Yeah,
Running time 2 hour 50.
that's
Yeah.
long. Yeah,
7:30 start, so probably more like 8 p.m. with all the ads and shit. So yeah, we're looking at a late finish.
I
But,
think I could convince myself to do that. It's been a while. I don't go to the theater very often. In fact,
mhm.
I don't know when the last time was, but I'm always interested in a good DiCaprio movie.
I am, yeah. I like going to this cinema or the theater, sorry, that we have at the bottom of our
Your
road
cinema? It's okay.
because it's an Odeon Lux, and it's basically like you get, like a reclining almost sofa chair type thing, and it's pretty nice and
Yeah.
posh.
They do
But they
the
do
food
offers.
service.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can order to seat and all that stuff. So yeah, I will probably treat myself to nachos because I'm not huge on cinema, theater, whatever, popcorn and stuff. I'm
Oh,
more
it's
like a
fucking
nachos
expensive
guy.
too.
It is, yeah.
Cheaper
We'll
to
take
go
a
to
cinema.
Domino's.
We'll take. I was trying to think. One Battle After Another. It's called.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Yeah.
going to see. My mate's been and seen it and said it was good, and he's
Well,
quite a harsh critic, so I'm
hmm.
looking forward to it.
Well, give us a review in the chat because then you're probably not using a letterbox. So
No, I am not. No. Speaking of theatre, Sunday night, big one at
yeah,
G
theater
Stadium,
dreams.
Allianz
Oh,
Stadium.
someone else already has that claimed, huh?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's not dreams at the moment. Theatre are
Oh,
nightmares
yeah.
at Old Trafford.
Dreams for me.
Um,
Yeah, hate them.
yeah, this one they call it the Stadium rather than Allianz Stadium or whatever in the Italian press because it's supposedly iconic enough to just be called the Stadium. Okay, fair enough. But
I
we've
couldn't
got our
point it
own.
out of a lineup of Allianz stadiums because there's so many. Couldn't tell you which one's which.
It feels like they sponsor similar looking stadiums for a reason. I
Yeah.
don't know. It is meant to be quite nice, but got to think it's funny that Juve are happy with a 40,000 seat stadium and they still struggle to sell it out most weeks. They are
Yeah.
not very well supported in Turin. That's the fact. Like if you go to Turin, most people are Torino fans. That's just the way it is. Whereas in Milan, it's much more of a 50-50 split between the two teams. Speaking of which, nice segue into our new stadium. La Scala del Calcio, sorry, will be no more. It's going to be reduced to rubble in around about 4 years if everything goes to plan from here, which it almost certainly will not. But a big step forward has happened. What really annoys me about big news about San Siro is that you get all these accounts, like Eurofootcom and
Mhm.
the European Lad and all that shit, tweeting sensationalist stuff like San Siro's going to be knocked down. Looks like 12 months. That's all you've got to go. And it's just like, no, we need to cut through the noise and tell people what's really happening. And that also includes our loyal and lovely listeners and watchers over here on the Substack because there's so much information. It's hard to know what actually matters and what the timeline is and how things are going to look. But my first graphic to display, and this is going to be helpful for those who are watching, we've got some visuals to display during this. So if you are able to switch to watching, I would recommend it, but otherwise we'll try to describe it. Here's the main news. What happened in the early hours of Tuesday morning? and the meeting started around about 11 hours prior to that. They sat in a session for nearly half a day. They had a vote on the sale of San Siro to Milan and Inter, the city council did, and they voted to approve it, which was a bit of a surprise. It was up in the air. There were some swing voters, like with a national election, and ultimately, I think what happened was basically enough people walked out to dilute the electorate to the extent that those who voted against didn't really matter anymore, and they reached the threshold by one vote. So it was 25 to 24 in the end, I think, in terms of councillors voting. So it was by the narrowest of margins. Now, this is an important caveat to put in here. Appeals are expected, and it will likely go all the way up to the regional court because there's people saying not all the amendments were voted on. There's environmental things to consider. There's a dispute about the actual age of the current San Siro. But for now, let's proceed under the notion that things are going to be fine. It feels like it's further along than it's ever been, basically, because it's got to this point.
Yeah, I tend to lean the opposite direction in that I will not believe anything's ever going to happen until that first bulldozer arrives or that first brick is laid, whichever comes first. And I have no idea how they want to do it. Whichever one seems the most logical will be not first, because this is Milan and they don't do anything right. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. I mean, we've had a million different stadium renderings. Every good one has been declined. Every shitty one's been approved. So we'll see what happens there. And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I received text messages when this vote was about to happen. They said the voting started. I said, voting for what? They said the stadium. I said, I do not give a fuck, man. Like, I will find out when we all find out. And that's when that first brick is set, because I just don't believe it.
Would you like to put the first brick down? Would that be something you'd be interested in doing?
If it's for sale, sure. Yeah.
Because they do that sometimes, don't they?
Yeah,
Like they auction off the opportunity to put the first brick down in a stadium, or like Everton's new one, I think they auction off a wall of bricks. He's got one, yeah.
If they were to auction off like seats from the old San Siro, I would fucking be there in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, I'd like to, and I'd put them, and I'd do the podcast on them, because that would be so cool, so unbelievably cool.
It'd be brilliant.
Thing is, they're not flip down seats, are they? They're like actually fixed seats. They're horrible. Apart from the ones in the third. Have you been in the third tier before?
No, I could afford better seats than that. So
yeah, no, you're right. I went in one for an away derby once just because it was like I wanted to be nearer our fans, and also you're right behind the Curva Sud at that point. But it's basically like the safe standing railings. I don't know if you've ever seen it, because it's that high up and that steep. You have to have a railing, and they flip down still. But yeah, I would like a couple of the actual seats, preferably the orange ones. I've always liked the orange ones.
That's where I sit. My times there. But
nice view there, Ancio. So right, that vote's gone through, and I want to mention as well the reason why this. And you're going to play the devil here, and I'll be the angel. So I'm going to relay the facts and the optimism, and you're going to cut me down at every opportunity.
Hell yeah,
as is your right and one. The reason that this is important is because there is an actual crucial deadline, and that is November the 10th. The reason that is important is because a historical constraint comes into effect on the current San Siro, which means that nothing can be done to the entire second tier of the stadium because of its age. It will turn 30 years old, and there is an automatic thing that comes into effect. What that means is we need to be in place by that November 10th, and the sale has happened, which is the important part. Because otherwise they would not be able to partially demolish the existing stadium. And we're going to come on to what they're planning to do with the demolition stuff. But they wouldn't be able to do it, and therefore they effectively had to move. They'd have had to move because they have to be able to demolish the current one to build a new stadium next to it. You cannot have two 70, 80,000 seat stadiums next to each other, you know? So that is an important thing. You could, but it doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen.
It would be ridiculous.
I've
always felt like they should just move the location. I mean, we bought land, San Donato. We should have built there. It should have already started. It's all silly. I do think, like, you got to keep some bit of iconography from San Siro, whether it's the rafters, the red beams, the fucking spirals, something, right? It can't just be another bucket. Like,
Oh, we'll come on to the design, because I think that's what most people are interested in, is how it's actually going to look, and their experience at the stadium, those who are lucky enough to be able to attend games. I mean, we should probably discuss why the clubs are doing this in the first place, right? Above all, it's money, and then a secondary factor is control and power. So the two are basically intertwined all the way. First of all, the revenue estimates from having a new state-of-the-art club-owned stadium, and it would be 50-50 split between Milan and Inter. The revenue estimates per club go up from 70 million from stadium revenues alone to 130 million, and that was as of a year ago, so it could probably go up, and you have good seasons with Champions League runs, not us this year, but hopefully in the future, so you get more that year and blah, 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 but you're getting nearly double the money from the stadium, and that is quite important. Money talks at the end of the day. But then also they've seen an opportunity to split the costs, which I understand why so many people wanted to build a solo stadium, but I think what has come out since is that neither club could afford it, and that's a problem. So yeah, you then have to find the money from external financing. When I say afford it, Milan and Inter could probably individually find a bank or a collection of banks to finance a €1 billion stadium each. But if they're financing the entire thing themselves, it comes with aggressive interest rates. So the first few decades of that stadium, the impacts of having it are worn down because you have to pay more money back to the people you borrowed it from. Basically, splitting the costs is something that they've always wanted to do since 2019 when this was first announced, and it is an important part of it. I would love for us to have our own stadium in the San Donato area or wherever was seen as the most advantageous, because you can really put your stamp on it. You could turn it into the AC Milan part of the city, basically, have a club shop, have the headquarters, the training ground, everything there. And it could